The James Webb Space Telescope is upsetting the apple cart. All of a sudden, we realize that we may have to rewrite all the textbooks about the beginning of the universe. The dwarf planet Pluto is the furthest object in our solar system. Hundreds of thousands of minor icy planets and asteroids populate this region of space within the Kuiper Belt. Once thought to be the ninth planet in our solar system, Pluto was named after Pluto, the Roman god of the underworld. However, Pluto lost this standing in 2006. According to current scientific theories, the solar system contains innumerable asteroids, a small number of dwarf planets, and just 8 planets. Our knowledge of the universe has expanded greatly over the past several centuries, and we now have a good idea of how planets operate, what they're made of, and whether or not they may house humanity in the far future. But perhaps there is still a great deal to discover about the stars in our own galaxy. What mysteries has the James Webb Space Telescope finally solved about Pluto? Does it harbor life whether known or unknown, and does it have an interior ocean? Join us as we explore the incredible mystery of what the James Webb Space Telescope discovered on Pluto that was hidden all along. The ninth planet Pluto was much admired for 76 years. No one noticed that it had the smallest moon in the solar system. The fact that its orbit was skewed and oval didn't bother anyone. Pluto was a bit of an oddball, but it was our oddball. Kids can relate to it because it's miniature. Many adults can identify with its plight as an outcast. The populace felt compelled to defend Pluto. There was a public outrage when Pluto was reclassified as a minor planet 15 years ago, which is perhaps not surprising. The IAU revised their definition of a planet, and Pluto was left off the list. According to the revised criteria, a planet must possess 3 characteristics. It has to go around the sun first. Second, it needs to be massive enough that its own gravity can shape it into a sphere or something near one. And third, it must have removed any debris from its orbit. Pluto failed the third and final evaluation, so we have a dwarf planet. The term planet has been used in a much broader sense for millennia. In the 1600s, when Galileo trained his telescope on Jupiter, everyone thought any big orbiting object in the sky was a planet, even moons counted. When astronomers first discovered the rocky rocks we now refer to as asteroids in the 1800s, they also referred to them as planets. From the start, Pluto was considered to be a planet. It was initially seen in January 1930 by amateur astronomer Clyde Tombaugh using photographs obtained using a telescope. A current employee at the Lowell Observatory in Flagstaff, Arizona, was where we found him. Tombaugh reported his finding immediately to the observatory's head. "I have found your planet X," he boasted. Tombaugh was alluding to a hypothetical ninth planet that would orbit the Sun beyond Neptune. However, things took a strange turn when it was discovered that Pluto wasn't alone in the universe. Beyond Pluto's orbit in 1992 was an object only a tenth as wide. Since then, almost 2,000 frozen bodies have been discovered in the Kuiper Belt, the coldest region of the solar system's outskirts. There could be a great deal more to come. Questions were raised when it was discovered that Pluto had so many neighbors. What did these unfamiliar planets have in common with Earth? Why did they stand out? Suddenly, astronomers were confused about what constituted a planet. Professor Mike Brown studies the planets as a planetary scientist at Caltech in Pasadena. He discovered the first Kuiper Belt object visible at the time that seemed to be larger than Pluto in 2005. In commemoration of the television show Xena, Warrior Princess, its name was changed to Xena. This icy remnant was created when the Sun and planets were very young. Brown suggested that Xena should be the 10th planet if Pluto was the 9th. However, if Xena didn't merit the status of a planet, then neither does Pluto. In 2006, disagreements over where to place Pluto and Xena reached a boiling point. The action culminated at a conference of the International Astronomical Union in Prague. After extensive discussion, a revised definition of a planet was offered for a vote on the last day of the August meeting. Dwarf planet status was awarded to Pluto and Xena. Given its importance in shaking up our understanding of the solar system, the name is appropriate. Since Brown's work contributed to dethroning Pluto as a planet, he has earned the Twitter handle @PlutoKiller. Posters and textbooks were reproduced and updated immediately. However, many planetary scientists have never updated their methods, and this is especially true of those who focus on Pluto. That could be sarcasm or malice on their part, but Mir and others argue in 2 papers that there are also valid reasons to reject the IAU's definition of a planet. The scholars read numerous books, articles, and letters to compile this information. Some of the papers were centuries old. They illustrate the multiple incarnations through which the term planet has been used by scientists and the general public, and the reasons were not always obvious. Ceres is an example. Between Mars and Jupiter in the asteroid belt is where you'll find this thing. After its discovery in 1801, Ceres was given planet status alongside Pluto. As more objects were discovered in the asteroid belt, Ceres was claimed to have lost its planet status. Scientists had determined that Ceres had hundreds of neighbors by the end of the 1800s. According to the legend, Ceres lost its planetary status because it was no longer noticeable. That's how Ceres and Pluto were similarly afflicted. Right? Mir's group now asserts that this is not the true story. Even until the 20th century, Ceres and other asteroids were still regarded as planets, albeit minor planets. Science Newsletter reported in 1951 that thousands of planets are known to circle our Sun, with the caveat that the vast majority of these planets were small fry, with sizes ranging from that of a city block to that of the state of Pennsylvania. It wasn't until the 1960s that minor planets became a derogatory term. They were observed by spacecraft for the first time. At that point, planetary appearances were still present in the biggest asteroids. However, the majority of the smaller ones were abnormal lumps. This proved they weren't just smaller versions of the larger, spherical planets. The fact that asteroids often fail to escape their orbits is irrelevant to the decision to rebrand them. What about moons, you ask? Until the 1920s, they were referred to as planets or secondary planets by scientists. If it's surprising that despite scientific evidence to the contrary, the common practice of referring to moons as planets persists, non-scientific media, such as astrological almanacs, were largely responsible for the shift. Horoscopes in these tomes are derived from the planetary alignments. Astrologers insisted that keeping the number of planets in the sky small was easier to understand. Later, though, fresh information gleaned through space exploration reintroduced moons to the planetary family, at least for some huge, spherical ones. Including moons, the term planet was employed again in scholarly publications starting in the 1960s. The International Astronomical Union's definition of a planet is, in short, not the first. The word has gone through numerous definition shifts, therefore, it might be altered once more if necessary. The IAU's definition is often defended on the grounds that it prevents the number of planets from getting out of hand. What would your life be like if the universe? Sputnik Planitia, a frozen basin roiling and flowing with enormous glaciers, is located within Pluto's left ventricle and is now known to have a profound impact on the planet's dynamics. Pulses of sublimating ice rise into the air as the sun warms the frozen plain, only to fall again when night falls. It's possible that the beating of the heart tipped Pluto over. Francis Nemo, a planetary scientist at the University of California, Santa Cruz, and his colleagues noticed something odd about Sputnik Planitia not long after the first photographs of Pluto's near side were sent to Earth. It is situated almost perfectly opposite Pluto's largest moon, Charon. The chance of an accident occurring is 5% at most. Instead, simulations show that a subterranean seed began to rise into the rift just as the basin was forming. Nitrogen gas from Pluto's atmosphere condensed and froze in the icy crater. Pluto's current alignment is the result of a huge burden caused by the accumulation of additional water and ice. The concept of an ocean beneath the surface is not new, but the far side photos have provided significant support for this theory. Some of the most convincing evidence comes from chaotic terrain, a confusing patchwork of hills, fissures, and plains located on Pluto's opposite side from Sputnik Planitia. Scientists believe that an asteroid or comet impact caused seismic waves to rip through and around Mars, Mercury, and Europa,